Well, you see what they're doing in Ukraine. They use the same justification. The claim is that if Putin isn't stopped in Ukraine, he's going to roll into Eastern Europe. But it's just complete nonsense.
Nonsense doesn't even cut it.
You got to do the narrator meme. He would not.
Yeah.
He would not.
But you know John Mearsheimer? He's the international relations professor, the realist guy. His lectures, really popular on YouTube. He was always warning for years and years that the U.S. and the West was going to provoke a war in Ukraine. He always says that before 2014, the coup in Kiev and the civil war in the Donbass and Russia annexing Crimea, he said before that, they never said Putin was, trying to go into Europe. That was never a talking point. Then all of a sudden he became this guy who wanted to reinstate the Russian Empire and, roll into Poland. But it's just a nonsense talking point.
Yeah. Putin, I think of 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, was like, the collective West has lost its mind, or the West has lost its collective mind. It was just a hilarious statement. He's just looking at it like, what in the hell is he doing?
He's right. I don't think he's a good guy, but he's right.
It's so weird. Like, oh, geez.
Dude,
how do we strip this apart?
The bifurcation in American politics is just so insane. There's no unification on what this country should be doing. There are people who are holding on to the last vestiges of the American constitutional republic. There's a lot of them. But then I think the average run-of-the-mill person doesn't know or care, and then the left is actively seeking to subvert. I think what we're seeing with we talked about this morning again. Stephen mentioned that the United States was born of rebels, and that rebel mentality exists within our documents. Our documents were written by rebels, and we maintain that even to the Civil War. It all makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And then Phil brought up exactly what the government is doing, and I said they're trying to stamp out the rebel spirit, which is a component of why they're like, get as many non-rebellious people to come into the United States, and that will start to erode our ideals.
That's part of the thing. One of the things that I'm concerned about with not just with CBDCs, like central bank digital currencies, but also with the idea of basic living,
universal basic income,
UBI. When people are on the government payroll, and everyone is on the government payroll, that really is going to make people completely subservient. Now there's still people that are like, I don't need the government. I don't want to deal with the government. All I want to do is live my life in a way that is as independent as possible. If you have a CBDC, definitely, if you have some kind of UBI, there's going to be so many people that are just completely and totally dependent on the government, more so than now. Now, most people in urban areas, most people in cities are on some level dependent on the government, even if it's dependent on the government to make sure that they can get out of their driveway if it snows, or, to make sure that they have water and sewage, plumbing and stuff like that. But if you have people that are getting a UBI, everything is going to be dependent on the government. Everything, but all of their income, that means that you're dependent on the government to eat.
But realistically, the moment a UBI goes into effect, the economy spirals out of control, and within a month, there's no economy at all.
I strongly
and no one's
agree.
Eating.
Yeah, I just saw that we print $1 trillion in the last 3 months. $1 trillion.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I think it took 250 years to get to the first trillion.
And what was it? 80% is just specifically for Zelensky himself, personally.
Just going in.
Bought him a big mansion and a big boat.
To
feed his cat.
Biden's asking for $105 billion to fund the war in Ukraine, the war in Gaza, to give military aid to Taiwan so they could work on provoking another war in Southeast Asia. And there is some for border security to entice the Republicans, but
right,
it's just an insane amount of money, $105 billion.
But I love this. Biden's like, we need money for Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan and the border.
Yeah.
And the border. Yeah. And the Republicans are like, border?